Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host. And today we're talking about leadership and recruiting and how you can get the great job, how you find the great people for your company. Before I get into my interview today, though, let me invite you to see how your presentation skills are doing by taking our free 4-minute quiz at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. And that's where you can see where your presentation skills are strong and where perhaps a little bit of support could get you the results you need and the recognition that you deserve. My guest today is the wonderful Christina Bui. And Christina's bio is so very long, and she's done so many things that I'm just going to give you the highlights today. That she's been a board member, a strategic advisor, business development executive, and with 25 years of experience in launching new businesses and service lines. And she's been involved in a whole breadth of industries. She sits on 7 boards, from food companies to artificial intelligence. And she's now working as an executive recruiter for the big staffing company, Robert Half and Company, which means that she's hiring the cream of the cream, or recommending the cream of the cream. And that's really what we're talking about today. Her full bio will be in the show notes, so you can check it all out there. But today, I get to ask Christina Bui about, how do you get hired? What do you look for? And what things she learned as from advising founders to now advising companies to find their best people. I know you'll enjoy the interview. On to Christina Bui. Christina Bui, I'm so proud to have you on Speakers Who Get Results. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've known each other for quite some time, and I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but I thought, this time I'll get her, and I'll get lots of interesting things I want to ask you. Before we get into the official questions, let me ask you, who would be your dream interview? If you could interview someone who's no longer with us, who would it be? What would you ask them? And who should be listening?
Yes. So my dream interview is with my mom, who passed away of Alzheimer's 2 years ago. So what I would like to ask her is, during the last 7 years of her life, she was really, starting to forget who who I was, who my dad was, who she is, very forgetful. And I want to know what it's like to know that you're losing your mind and that you're going to forget things. And one of the last things that she remembered to do with me, and I'll always remember that, is she had jewelry put away that she was going to give to us later, give to our daughters later. And that was the one thing she wanted to do while she remembered, was giving me all the jewelry that she put away that was very, very precious to her. And I was that something was wrong, that she was giving me these precious pieces of jewelry so soon in her life. This was supposed to be left behind after she was gone, but she wanted to make sure that she didn't forget to give me these pieces of jewelry. But her courage was amazing, because during the fall of Saigon, my dad was already in the US. She was the one who planned our escape during the last days of Saigon. We were the last plane out the day before the airport was bombed. And for her to, at that time, she was only in her 30s, to figure out our escape just really had to take a lot of courage.
Wow. Wow. I know you've told me about driving past the gates of the camp that you'd arrived at as a little kid and not realizing where that was. Yeah. Yeah. I know I often wish we could go back, and it's things I would ask my parents and my grandparents that the ones I knew and the ones I didn't know. But yeah, when you're younger, you're involved in your own thing, and then suddenly it's too late. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And for her to start life over in a brand new country with three kids, with no jobs, not
Mhm.
having finished college, starting college here in the US, just starting all over. It was very, very hard. And I wish that she could have captured it
Mhm.
in a memoir. My father actually was able to just complete his memoir at 89 years old.
Oh, good for him. Good for him. So, Christina, I'd like to ask you, on this podcast, we talk about leadership and we talk about leadership choices, especially when you're a senior executive. What has it been like? You're now an executive recruiter, but although you probably did that in bits and pieces, you're now officially an executive recruiter after having had a long career in various other things, including running an incubator project. How has that informed what you see now when you're helping to recruit executives?
Okay. Yes. So prior to coming back to Robert Half as a managing director of executive search, so we are a boutique retained search firm, which specializes in placing senior leadership talent across emerging growth and middle market companies. And we are a boutique firm within the largest staffing firm in the world, with
Mhm.
that's been around for over 75 years, with 400 locations globally and over 16,000 staff professionals. Our executive search group is very boutique within the larger part of the company. And what I just thought it was a natural fit. It's like no brainer. I basically accepted the position over a lunch meeting after meeting with my colleague, my former colleague, who said, let's have lunch. And she said, we have this position open. And I said, I'll do it. I really followed my gut, because what I found was, prior to doing this with mentoring, advising, investing in Vietnamese founders, I've collected about 10 years 10 companies that I advise. I have found that startups, especially emerging growth companies, people take the shortcut of not finding the right executives. It's like your mother, your neighbor, somebody oh, I know somebody who
Yes.
can do this. They can, they know enough about finance to be my, head of finance. They know enough about HR, or they can look. I'm finding that that is detrimental to the execution of the growth and success of your company. So I have found that through the process of learning the retained search process, to really map the market for the best candidate for the role throughout, every company that we know, and interviewing and making sure that they have the right criteria. It's so important to get the right executive, or director or VP or whatever level you need, to put the right person in the position. It's so much more important. It's very, very important to have this person on board. And
Ah,
and and you can't shortcut that. And I've found that the companies that have failed, that I've watched fail, is they just skip that part. They just feel like they could, cousin, and that's, part of our culture is taking care of your family and hire all your family members.
Natural human tendency. You see that over and over again. Or one client I know worked for a company where the founders were also their own board. So they didn't have anybody to check them. They didn't have anybody to say, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's
Yes.
illegal. You're not supposed to take that shortcut. So
yeah.
I think it's sort of it's part of growing up as an organization to get away from the point where you have your friends working there, to hire the people who are actually the best for the organization as you get to as you grow as an organization.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And and you have to be willing to replace yourself.
Yeah. That's a hard one too.
The founders, to get the right CEO in place to take the company to the next level, and be humble enough to move aside for the right person to take the company to the next level.
How do you also search for the right qualities with doing intentional diversity? Because the other thing is, it's natural to just start with people and people who look like you. So as a company's growing, as an organization's growing, how do you as a recruiter make a point of offering them diverse candidates?
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually go through a very major research process. And the first thing that we do is we gain an understanding of the company, their culture, their criteria for the role, their objectives, and incoming executives' objectives, goals, and mandates, and what their success factors. And we really understand what's really what happened in the last 3 years and what the plans are in the next 3 years. And then we develop that profile. And then what we do is we map the market to identify the potential candidates to target. And it's just huge research databases of outreach of all of our tools and networks and associations and organizations. So it's reaching out to hundreds of people at a time. And we stay agnostic, right, in terms of, I mean, there's making sure that there's no unconscious bias, but we do present the full slate of everybody who looks, who is qualified, check the boxes, and then we talk to everybody, who's interested. So it's a very focused process, and that's why it's very successful. And the candidates actually talk to quite a few people before they even make their short list to be presented to the client. But we just make sure that the person checks the boxes, and then really drill down on the personality fit and culture fit.
How do you talk to somebody? What do you say if there's somebody who the CFO loves, but really wouldn't be a fit? So actually, how do you tell the people in place, and how do you tell the candidate who says, oh, I want to go work with my buddy, that they're really actually not the best choice? How do you manage that conversation?
Yeah, you have to be honest, right? And the person, I mean, we just have to be honest with them, and they need to be honest with themselves. And I think it is up to the client who makes the choice, and it just has to be 100% the right fit. And if it's just even slightly off, you just can't move forward.
Okay. Are you the one who has that conversation?
Yep, I am.
Okay.
They're tough phone calls, but I had to learn how to make them.
Is that easier since you've done Kylan Ventures since you founded Kylan Ventures to support Vietnamese startups? So you were working with small companies, and now you're working with big companies. I'm curious what you've noticed that you're doing differently now, having worked with those startups for a couple of years?
I think now that I know in the back of my mind, just being back at Robert Half, it is a very well-run company. It's one of the best run companies in the world, always voted, top, Fortune companies in the world. I look at the process.
Mm,
And I tell these startups, this is where you want to be one day. Everything's so efficient, and culture and the people is important. And I think that it's somewhat something that I can guide them to aspire to. And so coming from having the Fortune 500 company lens really helps me to guide the startup to take the right steps to get there.
mm,
And I see all the shortcuts that they take, right?
yeah.
It's being cheap. It's not shortcut. It's like being cheap. No, I'm gonna, I'm just, I'm not gonna pay that retainer fee. I'm not gonna pay for those consultants. I can figure it out myself. I'll do it myself. And I think in the long run, it is detrimental to the
Hmm.
company.
Well, having founded and run a startup company, but on a shoestring, I get it. I get it. I understand having been cheap.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we finished, the main reason was that I burned out, that I was sort of done with opera, but also that I couldn't afford to hire someone like you to possibly replace me, which
Mhm.
is had we had more money, it might have moved on. I moved on, but the company might have survived if we'd been able to do that. And I look back now and said, oh, I wish I'd known you then. I would certainly have shown up at your doorstep and brought you a cup
Mhm.
of tea and said, help, how do I deal with this? But I understand that. What makes a really great day for you? What's
Oh,
the best part about what you're
yeah.
doing now?
I just love meeting with the company executives and learning all about, where they took the company and learning about their goals and objectives and their future, and then learning about who they're looking for and why they need this person and what their goals and it's and their vision. And I become, just for that little retained search fee, I become their advisor for life.
Mm,
So it's actually really nice when, my very, very first client, it's a nonprofit, California Fire Safe Council. I helped the executive director find the CFO, and she immediately hired me back again for the next role.
mhm.
And that's how I feel like I want to be married to these clients and help them to get next level, because that's in me. That's how I am with my Vietnamese founders, is helping company get next level. And it is just being there for them for that retainer fee. So my best day is really learning all about the company inside out and where they plan to take it, and that it's so fun. And that's what I love about my job. And then finding that perfect fit person,
Yes.
and then you find that diamond in the rough and they hit it off, and then you see the other person on the other side and they're so grateful. It's just very rewarding.
Christina Bui, the super connector. Yes, yes. Then one question for the time that we have left is, what would you tell any of our listeners? So we've got listeners around the world. If you've got listeners who are looking to move to a new job, are are out there looking, either their company went under or they walked away. They were fed up and they want to finding the right place. What would you tell the candidates who are listening?
Well, the best positions are going to be found through executive search. And so they should make sure that their resumes are in the databases of all the executive search firms, including ours and, all our competitors. because those are the positions where the client hires the firm to look for the
Mhm.
best person.
Most of our listeners are female.
Uh-huh.
And what would you tell somebody in mid-career?
Hmm.
What what do you see as missing? If you're looking for great people, you say, ah, I wish that 10 years ago she had learned
Yes, is
XYZ.
networking. And gosh, you can't sit in an office and you have to leave your home. And I tell people this, so many things happen when I drag myself out almost every single night, maybe 2, 3 times a week, sometimes weekends. But so many things happen in those conversations at
Like you're talking
events.
about networking events. Yeah.
Yeah, networking events. So many things can happen, that exchanges, people you meet, the discussions that you miss by sitting there and, just looking at posting your resumes on websites and posting. You have to get involved. You have to get out and go to events, meet people, have coffee with people, join professional and volunteer charitable organizations. You really, I think the key to my success has been just a crazy networker, and
Yeah.
it's a
You are
little too
everywhere.
much
It's true.
sometimes. It
Yeah.
sort of blends into my personal life, family life too, but it is building those very valuable relationships so that people know of you, know about you, know everything about your personality, your skill set, so that they can recommend you to somebody who's looking for somebody like you.
Speaking of skill sets, then one more question is, female CEOs are still very much a minority in business. What kind of it's so easy to just go into marketing or human resources. But if you really want to run a company, where are the areas that should be on your resume that you need to learn if to make you fit to be a CEO? Because women get shuttled into the
Yeah.
girl departments
Mhm.
all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I really feel like that management piece, I mean, that MBA, just being able to manage, to lead, to communicate, that's what everybody needs. And what I'm finding is missing in the founders. I think
Mhm.
the founders that are the most successful that I've been working with is they naturally know what to do next. They naturally know how to manage themselves, how to manage people. They don't need to ask. They don't need
Mhm.
to ask for they just know what direction they're going to all the time, every single day. And those are the founders that are going to make it.
If you're sort of an ordinary person, say in marketing, and you think you want to run a company, should you try to get a job in sales or some department that involved have profit and loss responsibilities? I've heard
Yeah.
that. Something I wish I had done more of when I started my company. We might have had a better balance sheet. What sorts of things would you stretch to learn if
Mhm.
you were a middle manager?
Yeah, I think really the finance part
Hmm.
is very important. The forecasting, being
Hmm.
able to write a business plan, put together a budget, forecast your budget, maintaining within budget. I think that's
Hmm.
where things fall apart a lot. And understanding how to really stay within your financial forecasts and
Hmm.
not, that is a big missing piece.
Hmm.
And as a marketing person, so you're right, it is being able to stay within, running a P&L, being
Hmm.
responsible for a division with
P&L
P&L,
being profit and loss for our
profit and loss. Yeah.
international.
Yeah.
Lots of our
Yeah.
listeners, English is not their first language. So, yeah, for
Yeah.
profit and loss. Yeah, running a
Yeah.
P&L. Yeah.
Because I have seen, let's say, a company the marketing person can raises 2 million, has a great product, but if that founder, burns all the 2 million within a year or two, that's a huge problem. And that happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, Christina Bui, I'm so glad we were able to pry you away from your very busy schedule long enough to talk to us. You're so interesting. So I'm glad I got at least a half an hour with you today. And thank you so much for joining us on Speakers Who Get Results.
Thank you.
Wonderful listeners, if you enjoyed this, please tell your friends, subscribe to us on YouTube, and leave us a good review on Apple Podcasts. That's the one that gets us the most visibility, and we would be most grateful. This has been Speakers Who Get Results. I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.